Oh, yes. Okay. Hello, friends. Welcome to our next, episode 5 of Archaeologists in Quarantine. Today, I'm joined by Stephanie, an Australian archaeologist, also known as adventuring archaeologist. Steph, thank you for joining us today. I know it's really late, first of all, thank you.
Anytime.
How are you?
How about the coffee?
The coffee.
I'm good. Yeah, I think I'm a bit bored in quarantine. I think I've been inside for too many weeks, so cabin fever's getting to me.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, you were in the UK. You were working on a commercial site, and then next minute you were in Australia.
Yeah, well, because I got annual leave and then I had to use up, and I actually got a bit of extra leave between contracts. And I'm like, yeah, sure, go for 5 weeks. I think it's been 8 weeks at this point. I literally got stuck in Australia.
Wow.
I was meant to, last month I'm meant to be back at work now, but I'm actually stuck in Australia.
If I remember correctly, they've closed the borders, right? So
yeah.
Months.
Yeah, but my work's been really good. Like they're still like keeping. I'm on furlough, which is nice. Yeah, they've been really good actually.
Oh, that's worked out really well for you then. So it's kind of like a free holiday, in a way.
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know, furlough is a UK government initiative to help us during quarantine. So yeah, that's what it means. It's a special new terminology that was created, and it's now everywhere. This term. Yeah. So first of all, I guess we already know the answer to the question I was about to say, which is how has quarantine affected you? So in other words, yeah, you're just stuck in Australia now.
Yeah. I'm spending a lot of time watching Netflix, a lot of Netflix. So if anyone has recommendations, I am open to them.
Outlander.
That's Poldark. Yeah. Poldark is so good. Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Basically, okay. Anyway, I'm getting distracted now. Just thinking about. I've been binge watching this TV series, and I'm really it's terrible. This is why I've not been productive and created videos or posted anything on Instagram. I've been watching Outlander. Okay, so as I said to the viewers, you're an Australian archaeologist. So, what did you study during your undergrad?
So I actually went to Macquarie University, and I was part of the first cohort that actually did a Bachelor of Archaeology. And so then my major was in cultural anthropology. So that's basically, I just had that, and it was, I would say, more of a cultural anthropology degree, but because I wanted to focus on the archaeology, especially during my undergrad, I really wanted to go on a lot of different digs. So I went to Italy and Poland and Bulgaria during my uni degree.
I mean, that's really cool. So you studied your undergrad in Australia, and then you went to Bulgaria.
Yeah, well, there was a project that was run by one of my lecturers, and she would get us a grant for 2,000 Australian dollars to go, and that would cover flights. And a week beforehand, I was looking at this the week I just returned from a month in Poland, and I was like, at what other point in my life is someone going to pay me to go on a dig? So I was like, you know what, let's go. And yeah, I came back for 1 month and then went back to Europe for another month. My parents were very happy with me.
I mean, it's the best. I think even for me, if you can get a free trip, it's a free trip because, I mean, you do have to work for it. And anyone who has done any sort of archaeology, there's a lot of the physical element to our job as well as the intellectual side. Yeah. You know that look. I don't have that. So where would you say is your favourite archaeological excavation?
100% Dubai. I was told after a week I'd be sick of sunsets in the desert. I was never once sick of sunsets in the desert. It was 3 months in total that I spent last year, in the middle of the desert of Dubai, right next to a military base, digging this amazing site called Suruq Al Hadid. If you ever go to Dubai, they have actually a museum in there specifically for this site. I recommend going to learn about it. It's really amazing archaeology to be found there.
Wow. It's one of those things when people think of Dubai, I don't think they think of archaeology. They don't, do they? They think of the modern buildings, the skyscrapers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen, they had Dubai 2020, which is their big like innovation show. I think probably because of COVID it's been cancelled or postponed, I would imagine. But actually the symbol for that, because it's all about the future, but the symbol is actually a ring that was found on the site of Suruq al Hadid. And I really kind of like that connection that they were trying to make to their past, sort of saying we were here for a long time, but then also acknowledging the future.
Hmm. That is cool. And just for anyone on Instagram, please head over to our YouTube channel where the audio will be better and they'll be a little bit clearer. So yeah, link is in the bio. And please get your questions in as well. So yes, that's really interesting. And I think it's so true. When people think about certain countries, they have this association with it. For example, Australia, I cannot think, and I'm sorry to say this, I can't think of the recent archaeology behind Australia. I imagine you're just obsessed with, clay Demeca pipes and stoneware.
Yeah. There was this big thing in the newspaper. They're like, oh my word, look at all this stuff we found. And it was like all the stuff that in England people go, oh, it's post-med crap, it's nothing, we don't want this. And in Australia, they're like,
yeah. I think it's definitely the same in the States as well.
Yeah.
I love post-medieval. So post-medieval, I'm speaking of now, we're speaking of. It's definitely one of those things because on commercial jobs in the UK, we find so much, so we don't value it as others would.
Yeah.
So how would you say your experience was coming to the UK and working in the commercial field sector?
I mean, all my previous experience had been like on field schools. Like I taught in one in Spain. I'd been on like so many different digs sort of all around Europe. And even though the dig in Dubai was a commercial dig, like it was run by the government, there was still like the teams were made up of from around the world, from university. So it still had that academic element. But then like working commercial archaeology, I didn't realize how much of the part of the construction industry you would be. Like you're working on a construction site. And it's something that I don't think I'd ever really clicked, I don't know, maybe I didn't do enough research before getting into it or something.
I think it's such a normal misconception because I don't think people realize how intense it can be sometimes, the situations we're put in as archaeologists who do not comprehend it. I've been on a site, I remember in central London, and I was walking for my break and we had to walk outside of the site to then come back into the site. So we'd actually go onto the main street. So we're technically in the construction site going through the front entrance, and the looks we would get from passers-by being like, what am I looking at right now? What am I seeing? This parade of archaeologists walking around.
I had to walk through the streets of Oxford from one of the sites that I was on to a different one just because they were starting up and they needed some tools, and because we were shutting down, just passing them over. And I'm just walking down with like a hoe and a shovel, kind of in my, I will say, grubby work outfit, and like the looks you got from people in Oxford, I was like, okay, I'm meant to be here, guys, I promise.
I think it's also, it's just confusion. It's just really that. People don't see us in the media as being on construction sites. Recently now, infrastructure projects, HS high speed rail. So for example, I think that's kind of highlighted to more people. Even Crossrail is a project we had before. All of the train infrastructure projects have definitely shed a new light on us in the commercial world. So when you compare when you compare UK archaeology, like working in the commercial sector, to Australian archaeology, what would the main differences be?
I mean, I would say that there's a lot less in Australia. I mean, obviously, like in the UK, there's so many construction projects and you have a lot more sort of land to work with. Well, in Australia, like obviously we just have the Indigenous Australians, but they didn't build like castles or anything. So if you find anything, it is just going to be like more basic things. And also having that Indigenous element, it can put some constraints because there's a lot of stuff about protecting Indigenous heritage, because obviously in the past it hasn't been really greatly protected. And so like it will be like if you find human remains instead of in the UK where obviously they do look at relocating them, and there's, you have to go through certain channels. If you find human remains in Australia, often it's like, we'll mark that it was there, but then we'll just leave it, like won't touch it, or sometimes the site could be shut down. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd also say the excitement about all the post-med stuff, because there's some current projects that have been happening in Sydney, which is where I'm from, and that's where they were really excited. And then we had a rail project that was actually happening, and they were really excited because they found this old tavern. Like they found the foundations of it in like a jug or something. So yeah.
And I think now when you compare what they got excited over there to your experience in the UK, I can see you're just like, yeah, that's what we got excited over.
Yeah, it was in all the newspapers. They're like, we found the tavern, guys. Like, we found the bottle. It was amazing. And like people in the UK would be like, just chuck it in the spoil heap, like barely acknowledge that it's there.
Yes. I think because a lot of people don't realise we have so much of these different artefacts and we can't keep them all. There's no space.
Oh, no.
So once we date them, that's what we need. We just need dating evidence sometimes. And if it's like in really good nick, we might keep it and use for museums or exhibitions.
And I think every site's different as well. Like some people want specific things. Like I've been on some sites where they've wanted you to take absolutely everything. Like that's all they've wanted. And then I was on another site where, oh my word, there's so many pipes, like so many clay pipes. And they were like, look, if it's not a whole and complete one, just don't even bother with it. Like if it's just a piece, like maybe make a note in your contact sheet that it was there, but we don't need it for anything.
Again, people on Instagram, please head over to YouTube to see the video a little bit more clearer, also the audio, because some of you are saying you're having problems. So please head over to YouTube, and the link's in the bio. We have to keep saying this now. So I need to work out how to pin the message. I need to do that next time, I think. Pin the message on the feed of Instagram. But there's something interesting you mentioned, Indigenous Archaeology, and I like that idea of, so you're finding it, and maybe 60-70% of the time you stop works because you're respecting it and you're doing kind of what you need to do by the local people. And I think that's really important for a lot of people to understand. There is a respect element to what we do.
And not just in Australia. I mean, I've been on a couple of digs that more of my student ones, like the one in Poland was specifically for human remains. And what I really liked, it was this tiny village in Poland we went to, and we were excavating like an old cemetery. And once they sort of finished with the research, they actually gave the bodies back, and they were reburied in the modern day cemetery. And there was like sort of a little dedication to them. And I thought that, to me, that was really nice. It was sort of, they were still home, like they weren't taken away anywhere. So, I mean, respect in archaeology is so important, so important.
Especially when it comes to human remains, we're very fortunate in the UK. We have a lot of protections for the bodies before we exhume them. We've got to ask permission from the Department of Justice. So even that gives more protections. Sometimes gives us more time to excavate the bodies. Of course, sometimes it might. I'm not sure. Every project is different to when they can be reburied again. It's a very long process, unfortunately. In some cases, it depends, as you said.
It does, definitely. But I think people kind of prefer to, if at all possible, I think in the UK, to sort of keep bodies where they are. Like we don't want to move them. If we move them, it's because we have to, really. Yeah,
it's true. What would you say your favourite site in the UK has been? Where was your wow moment?
Oh, it's going to be, maybe our archaeologists get really mad, but I was on a site and I found some fossils when I was digging, and that was just so cool. They were just like, I don't know, because I'm an archaeologist, I don't know what kind of fossils. They were just like shells. So that's the ammonites. I'm trying to remember from when I was like
right, okay. The circular one.
Yeah, the circular ones. I think it was them. I assume, I don't know, but it was just totally unexpected. And then I said it to someone, and they were like, "Oh yeah, they're everywhere here." And then you see one, and then you suddenly see them all on the ground. You're like, "Oh yeah, I'm like surrounded by them." So yeah, that was actually really cool.
Because for me, I think Lyme Regis in the UK,
Oh,
south
wow.
around Devon, that's where people normally go to find them. They go hunting for them.
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah. No, this was just it was going to be a housing. Yeah, they were going to build houses, and it was all Iron Age stuff was the period. We were like excavating a roundhouse, and yeah, they were just in the rocks. There was just fossils everywhere. Like sometimes just imprinted in the rock, sometimes like actual fossil pieces. Like I don't know. I don't. Yeah, you have to get someone that knows more about that to clarify.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I
guess get back to archaeology. What would you say? I remember you mentioned before, just before we went live, you were talking about a site in Australia, an archaeological site that you thought was quite interesting. That maybe the viewers.
Yeah. Well, in Sydney, we have an area called the Rocks, and it was basically where all the poor people went to live. Like it used to be the slums. And there's now a youth hostel that you can stay there, and they have the archaeological site, like it's on top of like the youth hostel, so you can go in there and it's all exposed. And so they have this project where people can go and like sleep over and they can excavate. And after they do that, they obviously have to sort. So through my university, I got the opportunity to go and sort the objects that they'd found, and it was all the post-med sort of Victorian era, Edwardian era stuff that no one really cares about in the UK. But I had to count. It was like this bag full of rusty metal. I don't know if it was nails or something. I literally couldn't tell because I was trying to count the pieces, and as I'm counting them, they're breaking. So in the end, I kind of guesstimated and wrote what I thought it was going to be because I was like, it's just crumbling. And I also had to do a lady's false nail that had fallen in from, I assume, someone in the youth hostel, and I had to catalogue that, which was exciting.
Yeah, okay. I see now when you tell us your experiences with Australian archaeology versus the UK. I mean, we do find some random things on site, but generally, of course, in the topsoil on the disturbed area,
definitely.
so not too bad.
Yeah.
Say hello to Past Preservers and Sophia. Hello, guys, on YouTube, and to Groovy Historian. Hey. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. So, other than Australian archaeology, UK archaeology, where do you see yourself next? Say you could go anywhere to work. Where would it be?
Back to the Middle East. Definitely, because that's where I want to do my master's. It was actually on the site that I was on. I really got into. They have this beautiful soft stone that they made vessels out of, and like the decoration is really cool. So that's kind of what I want to do my master's on. And I miss the desert. Like I got really sick of like how cold and wet it was in the UK. I was like, oh, I want the desert again. I'm too Australian, I think, to stay long term in field work in the UK, to be brutally honest.
I don't blame you. Yeah, that'd be really cool. So what time period is this site that you mentioned?
Oh, it's Iron Age basically. Yeah, they know nothing. It's a huge site, and they've only sort of excavated part of it, but I think they've been going for about, I think, maybe 10 years. So it's overseen by the Dubai government, and then they sort of have different teams that come out, and most of them were associated with universities. So it was like a German one, there was a Spanish one, they were from Barcelona. No, they were from Seville. Yeah, they were from Seville. I shouldn't say Barcelona. But we were a bit different because I was sort of we were a company. So it was actually the field school I'd been on in Spain. It was the guy that ran that. It was his company that he then went out to there. So that's why I went out. And yeah, it was, I could go on about it forever. I loved it. So it was like, we found gold. Like, in the UK, when you're like, oh, you'll find a lot of the post-med stuff. There, like, I brushed away the sand and there's just 12 arrowheads just sitting in the sand, like swords. I found I'm going to tell you the coolest thing I have to tell everyone, and I need to say to archaeologists because no one appreciates it. But it was like, I think it was like this big, like a miniature bow and arrow made completely out of metal. So it was like, it wasn't used. It would be like a little model. Like, I don't know how to that's basically what it was. And it's only the second one ever found on site. And yeah, I get really excited. I'm like, oh.
Amazing. That's definitely a museum piece as well.
Definitely, yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't think of the best. I mean, I found an arrowhead before. That was
I
a
mean,
wow
that's
moment
so
for
cool.
me, but
Yeah. I was sad I never found any gold. Like the two, yeah, there was another guy from Australia there on our team, and then there was an American guy, because our workers were, they were all, I think most were from Pakistan, and so we were then the archaeologists, and they both found gold, but I never found gold, and I was like, oh, that's why I have to go back. I have to find some gold.
it's like one of those questions we always get on construction sites,
Yeah.
don't we?
Oh,
Found any gold yet?
mm.
Found any coins?
Oh,
You don't know.
so many builders go by. They're like, oh, you found gold. I'm like, no, we're in the, it was a garden in like one of the Oxford colleges. Of course, we're not going to find gold. Like, what would you expect?
Yeah, I found gold once. It was on. I found a gold flower, and this
Oh,
was
wow.
yeah, but this was not in the UK. This was in Siberia, in
Oh,
Tuva. Yeah, that was amazing. But that site was
how was
completely.
digging in Siberia? How was that?
It was warm actually. It was quite hot. It was about 33 degrees during the day, and I was there in August. Yeah, so I was there in August. So towards the end of August, it started to get cold. So by in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
temperature would drop to like -1, -2.
Oh.
Or that's how it felt anyway. And apparently that's what it was. I don't actually know.
Mm.
So yeah. Okay, let me just check. Okay, so we've already answered the questions, it seems. I beat them to it. Sorry, guys. I want to know about your favorite finds and about the Middle East. So I think she's already answered that for you. So how do you find engaging with social media and archaeology? How do you find that element of what you're doing? Because for me, that's how I found you, through your social
Yeah.
engagement.
Mm. You know, I think that's also, I think I found you that way as well. I mean, there's also things about privacy to consider. So, because I try and put stuff about archaeology on there, but I'm also very conscious about, you want to protect sites, that you don't want to blast all over social media. Oh my word, look at all this amazing treasure we found on this site, because then, you know, there are unfortunately people out there who'll take advantage. So, I mean, I don't think I'm terribly good at it, but I like to try and maybe talk about stuff, or I like to say about stuff I've done. Yeah. I think that is sort of something for my engagement that I need to focus more on, rather, because otherwise it becomes a bit more travel, and especially now being in quarantine. I'm just, I don't know, I'm posting pictures from my garden. I'm just going to sit in the garden, sit next to a plant, take a picture. Yeah.
This is everyone, don't worry. So don't worry about it. I mean, you can just, and now of course I've noticed you on TikTok now as well. We need to get some archaeology ones, I think. I was thinking about this. We need to create something. I think we need to think about this after and start. Yeah, we should do this after the
We
stream.
should do that. That should be something.
Okay, that'll be for after the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something, I wanted to say is, everyone, please have a look at Adventuring Archaeologist, aka Steph, online. You can see her earlier posts before she was in quarantine. She was posting occasionally when we were allowed to, of course, stuff about being archaeology in the commercial world of the UK.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool. So Steph, thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's really late. I'm conscious of the time. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Instagram, it's been great. I'm now going to go offline. So thank you for joining us. Hello, past preservers, aka Nigel. Nice to see you. A bit offline? Okay, cool.
No. You can do it.
So Instagram, bye, Instagram. Sorry. Okay, now I'm just going to head over to YouTube. Thank you to our viewers who tuned in with us. We'll be seeing you on Saturday, where I will be going live and discussing the colonization of archaeology and how it's affected our industry. So that's going to be a very heavy topic. But until then, thank you so much and have a lovely evening, afternoon, day, whatever time it is for you. So thank you. Bye, guys.